Welcome into the Flame Central podcast presented by OrthoVirginia. I'm all by myself today, all alone in the studio. If you're disappointed, that makes two of us. Joe Yacht is gone. He was up north of the border with the whole Yacht clan. They took a trip up for the, what's it called, the Grey Cup? Is that what it is in the CFL? Their championship game? Yeah, apparently the Alouettes and Rough Riders were playing. Anyway, he was up there with his brothers, his CFL Hall of Fame dad. They're having a great time. They're traveling back today. Can't wait to hear stories from that. I'm sure there are plenty of great stories to come from that trip. And then Emily, of course, whatever she's doing, being a mom. We don't know when she's coming back. She's really more of like a distant memory right now than she is an actual person to us. We assume at some point she'll come back. Her child may actually be enrolled here at Liberty by the time she comes back. I'm not sure when that's going to happen. But for today, it's just me flying solo. So what that means is I would expect a little bit shorter podcast today. I hope it should be. It won't be nearly as long. But we are going to go through some of the top stories from the weekend. And quite honestly, a heartbreaking, I don't know if that's too strong of a word to use, heartbreaking weekend for the Flames. It just seemed like so many of the contests were so close, and they just weren't able to come out on the right end of it. And we'll get into all of those things. A couple of NCAA Tournament games that again, we're right there, and we'll break those down. But we have to start, of course, with Liberty football. And it seems like it's kind of getting to the point where it's like you run out of what do you say at this point. It's kind of the same thing every week. They fall to FIU 34-27. We'll go through, we're not going to go all the way through the game, but there are a few key moments I want to go back over and discuss what happened. I do want to start with this, though, because as I was coming in, I was thinking about, like, okay, it's easy to go the negative route. They're 4-6. It's been a disastrous year by Liberty standards. But what's a positive, right? What's a positive? What did we hear? We get the messages, oh, you're a company guy, whatever. But yes, let me start with a couple of positives before we dive into what took place in this game. Evan Dickens has been a huge positive for this team, and a guy that has come out of nowhere for a lot of us to be one of the best running backs in all of Conference USA. You look at just on the season right now, third most rushing yards in the league, 844. He's closing in on a 1,000-yard season, which if you watch the FIU broadcast, you know 1,000-yard seasons are the greatest accomplishment in the history of the sport, apparently. Dickens also has 10 touchdowns, so he's been fantastic. That has been a huge surprise, a huge positive. Where would this offense be if Evan Dickens hadn't emerged from third or fourth string where he was to start the season into this kind of back? You don't even want to think about it. He has carried the offense, at least in the run game. Also offensively, Dante Lee has been huge. And you talk about where this team would be in terms of the receiving core without what he's done. 31 catches, 572 yards. He has 5 TDs. The rest of the Flames combined have 4 touchdowns receiving this year. So his emergence has been huge as well. But if you're going to name maybe the MVP of this team outside of Dickens, it may well be Jay Billingsley. And we would not have said that like 3 weeks into this season. The kicking game was a mess to begin the year. He has been as good as anyone in this conference. Basically from that point on, I think he's made 10 out of his last 11 field goals now. We'll get into the one he made at the very end of regulation to send it to overtime, one of the great clutch kicks we've seen all season long. He has been fantastic. And once again, you could say, I mean, where would the Flames be without Jay Billingsley? I mean, you think back, obviously they're still 4-6, so it doesn't probably swing the season too much. But that UTEP game, what do you have, 4 or 5 in that game? So like he did help basically carry the offense in that outing. He's been a huge boost for the Flames, and credit him and the special teams unit for what they've been able to do. So there's your positives where we sit right now. 4-6, 2 games left. Liberty has to win both to make a bowl game, something that they've not missed out on since joining the FBS. So you still have that out there. You still have an opportunity to make a bowl game. You have to play better than you have basically most of this season to get that done. But let's go over this game and a few key moments. Again, Liberty loses 34-27 in overtime. A key play in this game, and because when you're playing close games like Liberty has, you can almost always go back to like 2 or 3 plays where you're like, boy, if that had just been different, the outcome is different. It's always 1 or 2 plays. You go back to the Missouri State game. If you had just converted on 3rd and 3 on the little pass out to Jacob Jenkins that didn't go anywhere, the game's over. If you had just done this or this, game's over. Well, you go back to the end of the first half for Liberty. Jay Billingsley, our guy, lines up, makes a 52-yard field goal that would have put Liberty up 24-17 at the break. But there was a false start. So take the field goal off the board. By the way, I don't know if they keep track of this, if anyone keeps track of this stat. I could probably go back through all the game logs and stuff and figure out the actual number. I have a hard time believing there's many teams around the country that have had more points taken off the board because of penalty this year than Liberty. I think it was 2 touchdowns against Jacksonville State. I think there was another one against Bowling Green. Then you have this field goal here. That's like 24 points just there. There may have been more. That's just 24 points there. Though, by the way, those 3 losses that you suffered were probably by a combined like 30 points. Like that shows again how these things just kill you. And while penalties, and I looked it up, Liberty in terms of like overall number of penalties, it's not bad. Like not, at least not in Conference USA. I think Liberty's been penalized one of the fewest amounts of any team in the league. But when those penalties occur, always seem to be just backbreaking. They just have penalties at the absolute worst time. That was one of those. So you take the field goal off the board. Instead of trying a 57, 58-yard field goal, Coach Chadwell decided that was too far. We'll just throw up a Hail Mary. Of course, it gets knocked down. You go to half up 21-17. So you miss out on those 3 points. So that was a huge play in a game that obviously went to overtime. You could have had a chance to win it in regulation if you get those points. Go to the fourth quarter now. Liberty trailing 27-21. You get a bad interception from Vasco, throwing across his body. Listen, Vasco, I know we've talked about it. Tough kid, does a lot of things that you like, but at times just doesn't value the football enough, puts it in harm's way too often. We talked about the Missouri State game. There were like 4 interceptions that they just flat dropped. And that was a bad one, throwing across his body. How often do you hear the analyst when you're watching being like, I mean, that's like quarterback 101. Don't throw across your body, and that's what he tried to do. Just fluttered out there, got picked. Fortunately, the Flames were able to nearly got an interception themselves on the very next play, and I'm still not sure that it wasn't, but stopped FIU, so it's still 27-21. So here we go. This is where it got really interesting at the end of the ball game for me. Liberty driving the ball, down 6. So they drive it down. It was like a 13-play drive, and they got down to 4th and 6 on the FIU 20-yard line. Okay? So it's like 2:48 left in the game. This is it. Like, this is it. 6 yards. You got to get it. You're looking, you've had nothing going for you offensively in the second half of this game. This is your chance. You drove the ball down. You need 7 to take a lead here. 4th and 6. Here we go. And what happens? Well, you get a delay of game. How do you get a delay of game in that moment? Like that is first kind of a mind-boggling thing that took place right there. So usually when there's a delay of game, there's one of a few things that happens. Either the quarterback just loses track of the play clock, the situation, just doesn't realize what the time is on the play clock. You get caught up in other stuff. You just lose track. Someone doesn't get lined up correctly, and so you're trying to get him lined up or shifted to where he's supposed to be able to run the play correctly, and you just run out of time. Or the play call is slow to get in, and quarterback's waiting, like, give me the play call, like, we got to go, and it just doesn't get in time. I don't know what it was on this. It looked like, I went back and watched it, it looked like they were lined up correctly with like 7 seconds left on the play clock. And so, I don't know. Like, I don't know what took place there. If that was just a Vasco losing track, I don't know. But the other part of it is, at that point, knowing that this drive could be the game, this play could be the game on 4th and 6. You had 3 timeouts, and Liberty elected not to use one there to give themselves another shot at 4th and 6. They take the delay, so it's 4th and 11, and then they kick a field goal to make it a 3-point ball game. Now, obviously, timeouts are important. We all value timeouts. But with it being, 2:40 something on the clock, you still had the 2-minute timeout, 2-minute warning, whatever you want to call it. So you could have, if you didn't get it on 4th and 6, in theory, you still have just as good of a chance of getting the ball back with the 2-minute timeout and your 2 timeouts in general. You stop the clock 3 times, as you would if you had the 3 timeouts. You still would have had an opportunity to get the ball back if you didn't get it on 4th and 6. So a little surprised they didn't use a timeout there to give themselves a chance to go for it on 4th and 6 and try to go in front, try to score a touchdown on that drive. So that was surprising to me because you kick the field goal, there's no guarantee you're going to see the ball again in this scenario. And you almost didn't. You almost didn't get the ball back. We'll go into it now. Like, FIU ended up converting on a 3rd and 15 on their next drive. They end up, helping the Flames. I don't credit the Flames for making a play. Going for it on 4th and 1 and not converting and handing Liberty the football on their own 40-yard line with great field position, only needing 3. I think FIU, if they had to do that all over again, would say, yeah, you know what, we should probably punt, try to pin them deep, and make them go, 20 further yards, 30 further more yards in that 20 seconds of time than how it ended up, playing out. I get they were trying to end the game, but they didn't execute that very well. So all that to say, I think Liberty should have taken the time out there, gone for it on 4th and 6, tried to score the touchdown, and then play it out from there. But Flames, fortunate, they get the ball back. They found a way. They got to stop. It all worked out just by that. It was that close. They get the ball back with 20 seconds left on the Liberty 40-yard line. And that's when Dante Lee made a huge play, and he's been doing that all year long. Like, defenses, I'm sure they realize, I'm sure he's at the top of the scouting report. He has to be. He's been the one guy that Ethan Vasco has had a good connection with throughout the year, and the one guy that's been able to make any plays at all down the field. And even when people know probably going to go to Dante Lee in this situation, he still finds a way to get open and make a play. That's what happened here. 29-yard play, the completion with 4 seconds left. So this is where it gets crazy and where I'm screaming at my TV. By the way, I was watching this game. I had fever, sick. I don't know. Some of this that I'm telling you may not have even happened. It might have just been some sort of feverish dream I had. I don't even know. So if any of my plays or numbers are inaccurate, let's blame it on the sickness I was dealing with. But you get the completion. You have no timeouts. He's in bounds. So the clock stops while they move the chains. What is the easiest way to stop the clock in that situation? Well, your offense is already on the field. You just get up on the line, you snap it, you spike it. And then you can bring your field goal unit on and kick the field goal. That's not what happened. And I'm screaming at my TV at that point because they start running the offense off. The special teams unit comes sprinting on. Meanwhile, if you're watching this game at home, you notice that the clock on the broadcast is screwed up the entire game. Like, it's constantly stopping for chunks of time and then jumping ahead. And so as the viewer, you have no idea how much time is actually left. Like, is the clock rolling yet? You're just wondering, like, did they get it off in time? You have no idea. I went back and watched it. It did look like the chain gang got hung up a little bit as they were trying to make their way down the field. But the bottom line is, and Chadwell mentioned this after the game, and I'm glad he brought this up and was asked about it by Nick Pierce. Apparently, they were supposed to spike the ball. They were supposed to clock it there. Some miscommunication happened. Someone called out, like, for the field goal unit to go on the field, and so it was utter chaos. What ended up being the biggest play, the most important play of the game, at that time, game-saving play, the execution was completely botched. It was not at all how it was supposed to play out. In fact, it's I would say, borderline miracle that with 4 seconds left and whatever handful of seconds you had for the chains to catch up, that you were able to get that off at all. Like that was so close to Liberty not even getting that kickoff and losing the game in regulation because they did not execute it correctly. And I do think as you look at this season and where we are in the season, how far we are into the season, just the inability to execute and do you call some of it the little things. This is definitely not a little thing, but the just execution on a week-to-week basis has just bitten Liberty time and time again this season. And were it not for our boy Jay Billingsley bailing everyone out on that sideline by hitting a 48-yard field goal as time expired, we would be we'd still be talking about a loss, but it would be a lot different conversation because that would have been an inexcusable way to end the game. Like that's just what it would have been. But Billingsley came through, made the field goal. You go to overtime. But again, like how does that happen there? How does that miscommunication happen? How do you have special teams running on? Like you're looking at receivers from the far side of the field that were lining up as if they were going to spike it, now sprinting off across the field. It was pure chaos. And the Flames fortunate that they were able to get that field goal off, and that Billingsley clutched up and got it, from 48 yards out. So you go to overtime. What happens? You know the deal. FIU converts on 2 third downs. They end up making the touchdown. Liberty, you get to 4th and 6. Vasco the pick in the end zone, and Chadwell after the game just basically said Liberty just didn't have answers in the second half. The Flames scored 21 points in the first half. 6 points in the second half, just 2 field goals. I don't know. I don't have answers either. And that's the frustrating part. It doesn't feel like there have been answers a lot, just in terms of the roller coaster and the inconsistency we've seen on the offensive side. Obviously, turnovers have been a problem. Vasco now in the year, 9 touchdowns thrown, 8 interceptions. That's not good. Again, he's put it in harm's way a lot more than just that. But in the first half of this game, he was 12 of 18 for 142 yards and a score. First half, he was sharp. Second half, 5 of 13. So again, you just saw a drop. It's just the inconsistency. The overall inconsistency with this team has been very frustrating. And so Liberty falls 4-6. Again, they've got to win their next 2 to make a bowl game. I don't know what you say here that we haven't said all year long, or at least for the last 6 weeks. It's just been a completely frustrating season, and it seems like it's the same kind of stuff bubbling up every week with the penalties at inopportune times, with just inability to execute in big moments. Liberty, though, has even gotten to, even with that, think back to these last 2 weeks. They were gifted that fumble from Missouri State when they were nearly returning it, scoop and score there at the end of the game that gave Liberty a fresh set of downs. You were gifted that opportunity to basically close the game out. Weren't able to get it done. You were, in some ways, gifted a field goal at the buzzer when everything else about it was wrong that got you to overtime in the first place, and weren't able to get it done. So Liberty, despite all the flaws and all the errors, have had the opportunities. They just still haven't been able to make the most of it. This was also, I believe it's the 4th game Liberty this year has outgained their opponent in yards and lost the game. 4th time. That's pretty wild. It's also the 3rd time now this year Liberty has lost to a first-year head coach. That's not good. That's not a good sign. And you're starting to get a lot of, your FIU, who had never beaten Liberty before. You lose to Missouri State last week, who's just moving up from FCS. It's not good. Yeah, they're not in a good spot right now. They're not. Thankfully, again, you win these next 2, you go to a bowl game, you win a bowl game. People will not forget about it, but you can definitely put a different spin on this thing. But that's the only way I think you can try to feel real strong or real positive about something is if you finish out that way. Like, you got to win 3 straight basically to end this season. Is where we're at. It's been a frustrating year all the way around. We've talked a lot about it. Next week, Louisiana Tech on the road. Louisiana Tech started the season really well. I think they were like 4-1 at the beginning of the season, and then they've struggled here down the stretch. They like Liberty, 3-3 in conference play. They're 5-5 though overall, so they're 1 game away from bowl eligibility. So they're certainly motivated. They lost last week at Washington State, so they went out of conference. They've lost back-to-back games. They lost at Delaware and to Washington State. But yeah, they started 4-1 to begin the year and looked like for a time, and I remember we talked about it on the show, that they might be the favorite to win the conference after the way that they came out. And then just, they lost in overtime to Western Kentucky. That was a big one. They lost by 1 to Delaware. So they've had some tough losses since then. But it's more about Liberty, I think, at this point than whoever's on the other side. Like, the Flames have to find some consistency. They have to do it quick. They're running out of chances. And we'll see what happens as they're on the road in Ruston, 3 o'clock start here Eastern time for the Flames. We're going to get into a little bit later. We got to update Flames fantasy, so we'll do that. I wish Joe was here to experience that. We'll update our bold predictions. Again, wish the Joe and Emily were here for that because I'm going to enjoy both of those segments. But we will get to that here in just a bit. All right. Let's turn the page, because before football, if you were paying attention on Friday, you had 2 huge games, 2 NCAA Tournament games. Field hockey, let's start with them. They played Syracuse, and what is it I say? I've said this multiple times on the show. I said it last week when we had Luke Hombrink here in studio, field hockey star. I said when it comes to the tournament with field hockey, NCAA Tournament, we could all just save a lot of time, a lot of effort, a lot of wear and tear if you just went, let's just start in overtime. Because it ends up getting there anyway, doesn't it? And it did again for Liberty. You end up going not just to 1 overtime, not just to 2 overtimes. You end up going to a shootout to decide this one between Liberty and Syracuse. And Liberty ends up falling in that shootout. And this was a game that you felt like Liberty had so many chances to win. And this is one that I'm sure they're thinking the same thing. Like, that we should have won that game. Like, we should have won that. Like, if you watch field hockey at all, you know, penalty corners, such a huge part of the game, right? It's basically like your set play where you can draw it up. You have a chance, to kind of design something and try to score off of it. Liberty had 15 penalty corners. Syracuse only 4. That's a crazy advantage. And Liberty not able to take full advantage of that. Liberty had 2 penalty strokes, so basically like a penalty shot from close range, 1 in regulation that they didn't cash in on, 1 as part of the shootout that they also weren't able to convert. So you end up all of that adds up to a loss, and that's where it ends with the Flames. But in this sport, it's so tight. You see just like how slim the margin is between winning and losing. Since making the national championship, reaching that game in 2021, Liberty hasn't won a game in the tournament, but listen to how it's unfolded. They lost in double overtime, and now in a shootout. Like, the margin is so thin. Like, they have been that close to being able to find victory again in the postseason and just have not been able to do it. This is one that I'm sure that they're going to be kind of thinking about for a while into this offseason, because they definitely had some opportunities. So that was in the afternoon on Friday. Again, I'm at home, house full of sick kids, myself sick. We had nothing. Like, we were just on the couch watching Liberty sports all Friday. So we watched the field hockey, heartbreak. You lose in the shootout, brutal. You flip over to soccer. That started up in the evening. Liberty taking on Clemson, women's soccer. You fall behind 1-0. You're like, oh boy, okay, well, number 8 team, Clemson, like, that's, is this tough? What happens? Less than a minute later, Ivy Garner, just flat out stud, takes it, scores, ties it up. Her 7th straight game with a goal. And I know I know that like Ivy won't finish. I think she finishes second now all time in goals, assists, points. And so she isn't the leader in that in women's soccer history. But I'm willing to say right now, she's the greatest player in this program's history. I think it's Nancy Davis-White has the record for most goals and all. But the level that Liberty's playing at now in Conference USA, I think is different than what they were playing in back then. And you've seen Ivy Garner now score goals in back-to-back NCAA tournament games. She did it against Georgia last year as well. So a great career, unfortunately a career that's now over. But in my mind, the greatest player this program has seen. And whatever the time frame is, 5 years or whatever, like she can go ahead and just like circle on her calendar like October, November of 2030, that she'll be back here in Lynchburg for Liberty Hall of Fame ceremony. Like that, like carve it in stone, etch it in stone, whatever. Like future Liberty Hall of Famer, one of the greats, in my mind, the greatest to ever play in this program, Ivy Garner, an absolute stud. So she ties it up at 1-1, and then unfortunately Clemson would go on to score the game winner in the 82nd minute. And in a lot of ways, much like field hockey, really when you get to the postseason again, you realize just how, not perfect you have to be, but how one miscue, one misplay, one little thing, and that's your season, and that's it. And that's the heartbreaking thing about the postseason, and both those teams, unfortunately, had to experience that on Friday. Women's soccer, though, great season. Great job. They played Clemson incredibly tough, and it was just sad to see that season come to an end, and certainly losing Ivy Gardner as she moves on is sad as well, because she was a great one to watch. Finally, women's basketball, they took on Duke on Sunday afternoon. They lose 71-57, which like that score against Duke, who's ranked 15th in one poll, 11th in another, like certainly respectable, and even more respectable when you consider what this game looked like. So Claudia Assine, starting point guard for Liberty, out for her second straight game. And I don't know if anyone realized how important she potentially could be to this team, because Flames having a hard time taking care of the basketball. Like Liberty turned it over 25 times in this contest against Duke. They turned it over 7 times in the first 3 minutes. Like at the outset of that game, it was like Liberty might turn over 40 times. Like they weren't even able to get into their offense enough to get a shot off. They were turning it over at such a high rate. And in fact, that is a concern. Last 3 games for Liberty, 25, 21, 25 turnovers. Like that, you've got to be able to get under control. But credit Liberty for continuing to play well on the defensive end. They made it difficult on Duke there, especially early in the ball game. Duke did get something. Yeah, they started to knock down shots more so than they had been recently. That's for sure, because they came in off a loss to West Virginia and hadn't shot it well in that ball game. Duke ends up making 7 of 21 threes, which again had not been the case for them heading into this game. Emmy Stout, 21 points, 7 rebounds. She was great. Avery Mills, 13 points, 5 of 15 shooting. So those two lead the way, which you would expect. After that, pretty sizable drop-off. Here's what I'm going to say about this team. Now, you got to get Claudia Assine back, certainly. That's going to be big for this team. If Liberty is going to be a contender in Conference USA again this season, in my mind, in my opinion, it comes down to 2 things. Number one, we talked about the turnovers. You gotta clean that up. You can't have that. You can't have 20 turnovers a game. You can't do it. The second thing, the development of Ife Nwabi. If she can develop on the offensive end, that's a game changer for Liberty. And I think she has a chance to be really, really good. In this game, 8 points, 11 rebounds, 3 of 8 from the field. She is a unique athlete, 6'2". She redshirted here last year, a Canadian girl. She is a really good athlete. She's able to get the rebound on one end, push the ball, try to lead the break. Like, she can handle it. I know early on, like, she's only shooting 35% from the field. She's averaging right now 10 rebounds a game, so you love that. she's a force on the boards. But if she can improve offensively and give you a little bit more there, and I think she will, and I think if history is any indication, like Katie Matera, Coach Katie working with Liberty Biggs, like, you're going to get better. You're going to improve significantly under her tutelage. So I think she will get better. But she, for me, is the one player. Like, I think you know what Avery Mills is going to give you. She's going to be great. You know Emmy Stout is going to be great. Ify is the X factor. And if she can continue to get better offensively and become more of a force there, and heck, if she's getting, 3-4 offensive rebounds a game, like, she doesn't even have to create her offense. Just missed shot can help create her own offense. A little stick back here every once in a while. But if she's able to improve offensively, like, that's what will make Liberty a contender in Conference USA. But she, for me, is the big X factor for them moving forward. All right. Liberty basketball, men's basketball, they play tonight, Carolina University, 7 o'clock. So if you can make it on out for that ball game, do it. It'll be on ESPN+. Naz and I'll be on the call for that one. So the men back in action tonight against the non-D1 opponent. So Liberty kind of one more tune-up before they head to Orlando next week for that event, which will be a difficult one. You'll play 3 games in 3 days, beginning with Vermont on November 24th. So there'll be a good test there. Good test for Liberty to finally get away from home, too, and kind of see what they look like on the road. All right, let's jump straight into the Flames fantasy. I know everyone, America, all eyes have been on this. So let's go ahead and jump into this. Remember, I led Joe by 30 points at the end of last week. So I was up 30 points with 3 weeks remaining. So let's run through what took place. This week, Joe got 4.5 from Jamari Person, 16.5 from Dante Lee, Reese Smith, not much. Christian Bodner, 7, which, by the way, Christian Bodner, the last couple of weeks, he's been playing his best football here this season for Liberty, especially when they've been using him blitzing the quarterback. Like Bodner has a knack on the blitz of getting home, and he flashed again this week doing that very thing. He had 2 sacks 2 weeks ago against Missouri State, and he was good in this ball game as well. Damon Harmon for Joe, 4 points. So Joe got 33.9 points. His total, 279.2, okay? We'll skip past Emily. She's 23 points, whatever. She's 137 points, whatever. So Joe, 279.2. For me, Jarrell Farrar was back this week, which was a good thing for Liberty. He missed the Missouri State game. He played well, 11.5 points. Jacob Jenkins, 2.5. Evan Dickens, again, the key to this whole offense, 17.4. Corey Jones, 3. Jalen Coleman, who, again, Jalen Coleman, he's showing you something. And whether it's in these last 2 to 3 games, you continue to see, some big plays from him, or even just thinking longer term, like if, again, we always have to say, assuming he's here next year, he's shown some things and looks like he could be an explosive athlete in that running back room. He had just under 6 points. So my team got 40 points this week. So I extend my lead now over Joe. He has 279.2. I have 315.5 with 2 regular season games remaining, possibly a bowl game. That's to be determined. But right now, I mean, everyone that's a fan of Team Warner, is celebrating. So things are good right now in the Flames Fantasy League as I'm looking to take back the trophy that apparently no longer exists because we lost it. And if you think I'm going to spend my money to create a trophy like Emily did, you're crazy. That's not happening. I'll just take the pride and the bragging rights that go with winning it more so than I need the hardware. But speaking of trophies, in our bold predictions, our competition, the Snell scoring system, if you will, I ended up winning again. Emily got second place this week. My prediction was I had 27-24 FIU, ended up being 34-27. And so I end up getting 2 points. I have 10.5 on the year. Emily has 7, Joe 3.5. If I win one more week, it's over. Or if Emily comes in last, it's over. And basically the bowl game situation makes it to where if there's no bowl game, that makes my chances obviously much better of closing it out. So this trophy that's somewhere over here, right back here, it looks like it's going to stay. Looks like it's going to stay on my mantle for a 3rd straight year. Three-peat Three-peats are hard. Ask Patrick Mahomes. Three-peats are hard, but looking to close in on one with that win. Speaking of that, I did reach out to Joe and Emily, and surprisingly, Joe responded. Doesn't always work out that way. Emily responded as well for their bold predictions for this week. Let me pull those up. Emily was probably, who knows what she's doing these days, but she got back to me pretty quick. I appreciate that. Joe's probably flying back right now. Joe's prediction for this week, Louisiana Tech. He's taking Liberty 24, Louisiana Tech 21. So Joe going with the Flames, getting it done. He said Vasco will throw for 3 TDs. Or he just said 3 TDs. Maybe he's total TDs is what he's thinking there. Emily says Louisiana Tech will win 30-24. And then my prediction, I did look ahead in Ruston this weekend. There's a chance of storms all weekend long. It's supposed to be pretty warm down there. I think like high 70s, low 80s, but storms potentially. And so that in mind, plus just what we've seen throughout this year at times, and I'm going with just carnage. I'm going 16-13 Louisiana Tech. Hope I'm wrong. I hope it's not a game that's that low scoring. But it's hard to have a lot of faith right now. So hopefully I'm wrong. Hopefully the Flames prove me wrong. But I'll take La Tech to win it 16-13 this week as the Flames try to keep their bowl hopes alive. On the show this week, the TV show, by the way, hope you'll check out. We do have a piece on Jamie Chadwell's wife, Solmaz Chadwell. If you don't know her story of how her family got to the U.S., please check that out. Watch the show. It's incredible. Emily Austin put this story together before she left to have her baby, and she did an incredible job on it. So definitely check that out. A really, really crazy, it's like a movie, like crazy story of how her family escaped Iran to come to the States. So check that out. We also have coming up here in a couple of weeks, we will have our annual Flames football pie eating contest. I was there when it was shot. It was as good as ever, as some of the Flames got to see how quickly they could eat a pumpkin pie, and it lived up to the hype that it creates year after year. So that's it. Nothing really in the mailbag today. I mean, what I don't know what more you ask at this point. Flames fans frustrated. I understand that. Here's the thing. At this point, yes, has it been frustrating? Sure. What's worse, though, than frustration would be apathy. It's a good thing that Flames fans care this much. That's what I'll say. And it may not be fun for those involved. I know it's not. For players, coaches, administration, all that. Nobody likes the blowback that they see on social media and all of that. Nobody likes that. But what would be worse than that is if nobody cared. Liberty has built itself to the point where expectations are high, rightfully so, where this is a program that's expected to compete for a conference title year after year after year, and they should. And so the frustration, the social media comments and all of that, while some probably cross the line, they do. There are some that definitely do. You want your fan base to care. No coach wants to be in a place where the fans don't care. No players want to play in a program where the fans don't care. So it is a good thing that this fan base is fired up, and that they care, and that they want to win, and that they think this is not good enough. That is a good thing. The next step is apathy, when nobody cares. And that's where you don't want to be. You do not want to reach that point. Hopefully we don't reach that point in the future. But for now, you understand the frustration. You understand, why people are like, how has this happened? How have we been passed up by these other programs that we should be better than? But for me, I will just say it's good to be at a place where people care that much. Now you have to go fix it. Now you have to find a way to get back to what Liberty was in 2023 and prior years, where they were able to, it wasn't just about like, can we make a bowl game? Like, it was, a lot better than that. It was like, what bowl game can, how high can they reach? Like, will they be in the top 25? That's what you have to get back to. But for me, I'm glad the fans care. I'm glad you're watching this, me by myself in here rambling, because you care. And hopefully the Flames can figure it out. Hopefully they can finish the season strong and make a bowl game and continue that streak of, I believe it'd be 7 straight bowl games if they're able to get that done. We'll see. We'll see together, and we'll be here to talk about it. Appreciate you guys checking out the show this week. Next week, Joe should be back, so it'll be exciting to get him back in here, and we'll kind of move forward that way, and hopefully Emily gets back here shortly as well. But appreciate you watching. Once again, Flame Central Podcast presented by OrthoVirginia. We'll see you right back here next Monday.